Sometimes, being evil can be fun, and there have been a number of games that will facilitate a player's more twisted desires. Whether it being an optional choice, or the objective is to be a cartoonish supervillain, or sometimes a game just downright revels in its depravity. There's many different ways to be despicable, and in 2024, a game called Life Eater opened another door to us. You play as a man named... and he can probably tell it best.
I know the name of the Lord of the Earth. And that name is Zimforth. He is not a kind God. The things I must do to serve him are cruel and vicious. But if I don't do this year after year, the world will end.
So we must stalk our neighbours before kidnapping and sacrificing them to the one true power in this world. It's kind of a reverse horror game in that we are the monster here, albeit a not altogether willing one. It's an amazing premise, and for a great many reasons we'll get into. The game was made by Strange Scaffold, who you might know for games like I Am Your Beast, El Paso Elsewhere, Click Holding, Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, and a bunch more, including a Strand-type game? Their portfolio is pretty varied. I think they're a studio that takes that one Sonic the Hedgehog image to heart, and I can support it. While I was making this video, they even released a new game called Co-op Kaiju Horror Cooking. I have no notes about that name there. Life Eater might be a somewhat overlooked title from them, possibly because, as amazing as the premise is, the actual gameplay looks like this. Now, I think the gameplay is kinda neat, with some flaws, but there's no denying that when I tell you the premise, you were expecting something a little more hands-on than this. Like a first-person ImSim thing, or hell, Ground Zeroes is sort of a kidnapping game if you think about it. Instead, we have something that kind of reminds me of my video editing software. Maybe this is a separate package on my Adobe subscription. The art style is also maybe not what you expected based on the cutscenes I showed you earlier. I'm sure the grey silhouettes were efficient to make from a development standpoint, and there are a few different variations, but there is something somewhat cartoonish about them. I don't know if it's intentional to take the edge off the game, but I'm not sure it's altogether a positive. Some of the menus in the game feel like default engine assets on top of that too. Not altogether an amazing first impression, but things do improve when you get into it. Zimforth rings his dinner bell right into his chosen's brain, and we go out to oblige him. The first year is pretty easy to get you to grips with how it plays, but it will get a fair bit more complicated. You have a timeline of someone's day-to-day schedule that you need to uncover by spying on them. This is their whole week's schedule. Don't make the mistake of thinking it's just the one day. You take actions to reveal these fuzzy blocks in their schedule, and see what they were up to. Some blocks are more private and hard to notice, so you'll have to use higher level actions to reveal them. However, those come with the cost of raising your suspicion more. Every action raises suspicion, even if it fails. And once that suspicion bar raises high enough, they'll report you. Fortunately for you, the town seems to run on a 3-strike system for stalking, so don't feel bad that the first person you're taking down is a cop. They're clearly not doing their job anyway. You also have to manage your time as well, as Zimforth will not wait for his dinner, and some of these actions might take longer than others. So don't think you can drag your feet. You're being pushed into being a proactive pilferer. This is where exploring the whole week of events comes in handy. They'll go to work or sleep every day, but it's easier to spy on them on some days compared to others. As well as this, you have downtime, where you go about your everyday routine, which will let you reduce your suspicion, and also gain special tokens that will let you take certain actions without earning any suspicion at all. Very useful. But again, this will take up time that you could be using to stake out your target. It's all a balancing act. Getting either arrested or running short of time means you have failed your mission, and also Zimforth. You need to uncover enough about their day to be able to safely go out and carry out an abduction, represented by this area on the meter. Once you're ready... Mission Not accomplished yet. Now you need to conduct the sacrifice for the water the flowers ceremony. This is an exam to check if you were paying attention to your target. You were stalking them, after all. You should know this stuff. How much do they sleep? Do they live alone? Any kids going to be getting half a Christmas this year? While what it's asking of you is broadly the same day after day, the exact wording of the question will change, and the body parts you need to interact with are randomized for every target. A guide cannot help you. You need to be attentive. If you fail here, you have to start all over again. It's rough, but once that's done, that's Zimforth appeased for another year. But then we're on to the next one, and the demands from the Almighty aren't going to get any easier. You may have multiple people to deal with and have to pick the correct one based on instructions. You'll have to pry deep into their lives and make a judgment. One mission in particular asks you to abduct someone who is both comatose and elderly, which should be the easiest mission ever, but you need to find the specific window when their spouse and their carer aren't attending to them. And there's also... No, that's kind of it. For a game that takes place over 10 years, I came away feeling kind of wanting. It took me about 2 to 3 hours to beat, and I've covered games that are shorter than that and felt perfectly satisfied with them, but those gave me a complete gameplay experience. They explored their ideas thoroughly and then bowed out without overstaying their welcome. In comparison, I can't help but feel Life Eater could have done more. The limited window of opportunity mission I mentioned just now is one I found the most thrilling, but it's the only one like that. The rest are about profiling people to match the instructions given to you, and this does feel like unrealized potential. What if you had to do multiple objectives to make someone available? Why not even some kind of modifiers that will make things more difficult, like a commute making things take longer, or a more active police presence? The game lets you take some special active actions to unveil potentially juicier parts of their day, but it often just comes out as another action. Maybe some of these could be risky adventures promising higher rewards? Sometimes these are teased as you creating a window to strike, like poisoning their food. That's such a good idea, but the times where it feels like you're active like this are extremely rare. I'm not asking for Hitman levels of interconnectivity here, just something a bit more. Additionally, while some parts of the missions are randomized, like some details about a person, the schedules on display will mostly be unchanged, just stacked in a different order. This means if you do fail a mission, you'll likely speed through it the next time because you know what to expect. A bit more randomness here could have done a lot. There might be reasons more couldn't be implemented here, and one might be exactly how this game came about. According to the director of the game, Zalavia Nelson Jr., Life Eater was originally conceived as a Saw game.
Which probably isn't surprising. I said you cannot build the traps because it won't actually make you feel like Jigsaw, and you can't escape those traps because it won't actually make you feel like one of those victims caught up in Jigsaw's trap. The point in time in which you would have to set the game and create a new gameplay loop to actually make you feel the same web of uncomfortable but, intrigued and fascinated feelings that Saw makes you feel is before one of those movies even begins, the process of actually capturing your victim. Because let's be real, John Kramer has a system for identifying and capturing those targets, and if you could see it in full, it would be messed up, but also compelling the same way that Saw is. And that all came from saying, hey, how would you do a Saw game? And then realizing, we actually don't need Saw to do it.
This links up with how the game presents itself, I think. It is laser focused on this one aspect, and wants to do what it needs to do before tipping its hat and being on its way. Still, I do wish it would have stayed with me a little longer. It can feel like a game jam product at times, a somewhat bare-bones execution on a big idea, one that feels like it leaves a lot of untapped potential emotionally and mechanically in its loops. It's a shame because the premise is fantastic, and it's hard not to think of the times where the game really follows through on it. When you're stalking your prey, there's some really strong emergent storytelling present as you get a sense for who a person is through what they do in their day. Not just their basic everyday routine, but also their secrets. That cop in the first day had a period you could see he was burying bodies. There's a lot of examples, big and small, where you can get some surprising and juicy insight through these actions, some being funny and others less so. In a lot of ways, doing this humanizes these people, which makes what you're doing all the more tragic or monstrous. Despite being a game where you just click on blocks and items from a drop-down menu, the game puts a lot of flair to sell the idea of being in the shoes of a kidnapper, and it can become one of the most subtly disquieting parts of the game. Each action you take is described, and there's quite a lot of them. Some are so plausibly grounded that it is easy to imagine someone actually doing these things, knocking on someone's door with an innocuous excuse that lets you know they're at home, or cold calling them to see if they pick up. Watch them from a coffee shop, stake out their work, even put geotags on their belongings. The ease of which you're doing this, through just doing actions from a menu, ends up reinforcing this. It takes so little effort to hound these people that a sense of paranoia can seep in. Could someone stalk me? Would I notice if someone on the street was keeping an eye on me? Was that stranger really just making polite conversation, asking about my day, or did they have ulterior motives? Does someone look at me like this? See my routine as a puzzle to be solved? My natural wariness as a defensive wall to be cracked? This isn't to say that this game will or even can train you into being a criminal. Don't mistake this video for a Fox News moral panic story. If anything, it helps make you aware of suspicious activity. And actually doing these things in real life is much harder than simply clicking a button. Still, I should stress again that the game never feels like it quite hits its stride, and the length might put people off. Especially when not on sale, at nearly £13 it is more pricey than other short titles I've covered as well. Granted, there is an endless mode as well you can have fun with, though it still didn't shake the feeling of unrealized potential for me. But I will say the game does deliver on its vibe, and in contrast to its gameplay, there was quite a lot to chew on with the game's story. It's probably a good thing that the protagonist doesn't revel in what he does. He doesn't want to do this, but he has to. Otherwise the world will end. Every year is a trolley problem, but the track is endless. It makes him sympathetic and eases the horrible edge this game could have ended up having. It's not miserable torture porn without a point. We play as a human that has to dehumanize others in their duty. With just a small acknowledgement of the immorality of our actions, the game becomes so much more interesting. Plus, the voice acting is fantastic. The actors can deliver their performances with such raw emotion that it adds an intense weight to the proceedings that really captivates you. Wait, did I say actors?
And that should be it. It's... right?
He saw me?
Nice to see you again.
No one sees me. This is...
Have a good one.
This is bad.
Have a good one. Sir? Are you okay?
And the next thing I know, I have a beast. A man. In my car. A beast. A man. And the cage I bought to contain him.
We're going to be getting into spoilers now, as the core of the narrative wants to look at what happens when this burdened loner takes someone who wasn't asked for. We'll be getting into just about everything here, so if you don't want to hear that, go to here.
Two? What do you mean, two? It's never been two. My brain explodes for my insolence.
So, as you can sort of make out from the subtitles earlier, our kidnapper here is named Ralph. Our captive is called Johnny, and he doesn't like Ralph too much. And Ralph kind of feels bad about kidnapping him. After all, Ralph hasn't taken him to be one of his victims.
I'm sorry you had to see that.
Are you going to do that to me?
No,
Is that what you do?
Look, you weren't on the list. Zimforth, he gives me a list.
Ralph tries to be nice to Johnny, treating his prisoner with respect, but also wants to keep up a wall, because, well, he needs to keep doing what he does.
I try not to look at him for too long. Him being here makes me question things. Sorry you had to see that. Again.
You grew up around here.
Oh, we shouldn't be talking.
What else am I supposed to do? Get a fucking tan?
However, there is a crack in his rough exterior, and after being captured so long, Johnny stops fighting. He tries to get through that armor and connect with Ralph. And succeeds.
Oh my god. It's just one more week until the finale. Did you see that scene? Do you know what's gonna happen?
No, there's no telling what's gonna happen. It'd be even more exciting if I could watch it on the big screen upstairs.
You know how long you've been here. I know you know that I can't let you do that.
Yeah, sure. Just had to try, you know?
Just had to try. And Johnny does indeed try. While Ralph is away doing what he does, Johnny makes an escape attempt, but his legs are so atrophied from being in that cage for at least 3 years at this point that he couldn't make it up the stairs out of the basement, and he unfortunately failed at turning a tool on himself.
Please, don't put me back in there.
Unfortunately, unable to escape in any sense, Johnny lives another year. Only now it's Ralph, desperate for company from him, giving Johnny, the hostage, the power to ask something of his captor after the next harvest. He asks Ralph to permanently blind him, clearly accepting that this is his life now, not wanting to be reminded of everything that happens down here. As horrific as this is, it's clearly a boon to their relationship, because now in year 6, or maybe the 5th year of captivity, the two are speaking openly. They talk about Ralph in his dehumanizing language, how it makes him feel better to call his victims beasts rather than humans. Interestingly, he thinks of himself as a beast too, probably because he can't see a human doing inhuman things, though he frames that as why Zimforth wants him, implying that he's thought that of himself, in some way at least, since before he started making the sacrifices. This might be a reason why Ralph's name is garbled, as if he can no longer accept himself. Anyway.
Thanks for the headphones. It helps.
Yeah, of course. Anything.
Hey, why are you nice to me? I mean, you kidnapped me, but you're nice. You don't have to be.
I guess I told you why I took you.
Yeah.
Now you're here, though. Is it silly for me to think that we could be friends?
Yeah, that's pretty silly.
Oh, okay.
We can get into some stuff there, but first it might be time to talk about Zimforth. Ralph collapses one day while down with Johnny, and it turns out to have been from one of the more intense messages from Zimforth. This leads Ralph and Johnny to having a frank conversation about the Lord of the Earth, and Johnny asks something that I'm certain a lot of people have been screaming at their screen for a while now.
How do you know it's all real then?
Look, I saw it. He reached into my head. Okay? You don't get to ignore that.
But what if you made him wait? For just 1 year, he gives you a message and you say no. What happens then? If you've never done that, you could break the cycle, man. And if this isn't real, that would be bad for you. That would suck, and you'd have to face the consequences. But you'd be free. Don't you want to try? Once?
I think this face really sells someone telling you that you might have been killing people for over 2.5 decades for absolutely no reason at all. The game has been giving you reasons to distrust Ralph's perception all the time. Zimforth seems to manifest from light sources, lamps, bulbs, television sets, which to me make me wonder if instead of messages from the deep, he's been suffering from migraines or epileptic fits that have left him confused or deluded. Plus, within the gameplay itself, Zimforth's demands have been rather suspect. Take people who are lonely, who won't be missed, those near death's door, In other words, Zimforth coincidentally wants those who would be easy to kidnap. After Ralph talks about seeing himself as a beast, Zimforth apparently asks for someone monstrous to satisfy your broken conscience. Is it really the Almighty who's been making these instructions, or is it Ralph's own subconscious picking someone who would be good for it? A year passes between killings after all. Plenty of time to notice people who he could steal away. Not even at the same time every year, according to Ralph, so does it only come when he, consciously or not, finds a target? Even the sacrifices themselves, especially being somewhat randomized, feel like the work of a madman. Of course, the amount of sleep they get means that this specific rib must go. That's just what makes sense, right? So, Ralph waits. And waits. And waits.
You have to do it.
God, I have to do it.
Because of the stalling, I also have less time in order to actually find my victim, but I'm told to find a drifter who isn't a regular part of the local rock band. So I stereotyped the drummer as the most replaceable, and it turns out I was absolutely right. Ralph and Johnny discuss the ramifications of this, of maybe being responsible through this little experiment. They do keep the door slightly open on it maybe being a coincidence. A disaster just happened to strike with the worst timing in the world, but honestly, how could they take that chance now?
We do whatever Zimforth tells us.
I fucking guess so. I'm sorry.
So we keep going. I think this also leads to Johnny better understanding Ralph, and Ralph being able to trust Johnny more, because he brings Johnny upstairs now.
Tell me what you think.
It smells different than I thought it would. It's stale around the edges.
I guess I don't spend much time up here anymore.
Huh. Makes sense.
Johnny shares with Ralph how he was going to college, but says he felt alienated because he was a few years older than everyone else. He was lonely too, like Ralph, but not quite like Ralph. Makes the friendly chat he had when serving at the start feel somewhat ironic. He was, at least on a small level, trying to reach out, to connect with someone who he'd seen before, but that person happened to be Ralph.
Johnny, look, I'm sorry I took you from your life like that, Johnny.
There's so much you can do, right? Say hello to the wrong guy in a grocery store. End up in a basement. That's America in a nutshell.
For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here, Johnny.
Me too.
That's the second most pregnant pause in this game. Do you think he really means that? After that story, blinded and captive in Ralph's home for so long? Or is he just being polite? Before we go on to the game's endings, I want to talk about Ralph and Johnny's relationship. More specifically, Ralph and his feelings for Johnny. Because yeah, I think there's some serious queer overtones in this game. I mean, a big old lonely guy suddenly has a lithe young man call him by his name while at the grocery store, and it puts the quiet loner into such a panic that he has to kidnap him and keep him caged up in his basement. It feels like Ralph is repressing some feelings here, perhaps metaphorically and literally.
I try not to look at him for too long. Him being here makes me question things.
But slowly he begins to warm to this man, cherishing this new avenue of companionship in a bleak and isolating life, and spends more and more time with him.
I guess I don't spend much time up here anymore.
Makes sense.
However, unlike previous games where I've fallen into this rainbow-covered rabbit hole, this isn't going to be a gay romance this time. No dollar for me here. Ralph might be lonely and looking for company, but these feelings are never reciprocated. This is because the game understands your hostage cannot consent. Moreover, and more importantly, Johnny does not consent. Even if he is more courteous and kind in the later years, behind everything Johnny says is the fact that Ralph has stolen his life from him. He is just making the best of his inescapable everyday life. Why rattle the cage when the bars don't move? This story could have had a really cheap Stockholm Syndrome narrative, but eschews it for something that feels more grounded and realistic. There is an irreconcilable imbalance of power between them, and Johnny will always be thinking about being denied going outside, no matter what Ralph cooks for dinner.
Do you want to try that garlic butter popcorn tonight? I hear it's really good.
Sure, man.
There's something too about Zimforth and Ralph's work being behind all of this. The way Ralph talks about the Almighty is reminiscent of a toxic relationship, either past or present, that has robbed Ralph of his self-worth.
Why would a God who loves you do this to you?
A God who loves me. Whoever said that Zimforth loves me?
Through Johnny, he thinks he can find happiness again, but just as Zimforth has eaten Ralph's life, Ralph has eaten Johnny's. And despite all the ways Ralph shows softness, he has left torment and scars on Johnny that will stay with him. There is no happily ever after for them.
I'm clocking out. Good night.
Good night, Johnny.
And then comes the final year.
Does this space give me 6G?
No. No.
Are you okay over there?
No, no, no!
What's going on?
No, 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 no! Anyone but him! Please! Please.
It's me, isn't it?
I won't do it.
You have to do it.
I won't.
To save the world, you gotta do it.
I don't give a shit about the world. I don't care if the world ends right fucking now.
You should. So, do it to Anne, and know that I don't hold it against you, and
I can't do it, John.
I don't regret anything.
I love you, Johnny.
Do it.
And that's the most pregnant pause in the game. You could see this response in many different kinds of light, but let's get right to business. What's incredibly cool here is that instead of just selecting a binary choice, the game takes the same stalking gameplay but reframes it around Ralph and Johnny spending time with one another. No longer the careful steps of a predator, but the tender and rue-filled moments of someone spending their final hours with who they care for deeply. And it twists the knife of the decision even harder to see how Ralph and Johnny spend their time together. But this will be the end. They will be separated after this. There is a choice you can make here, but we'll follow through on sacrificing Johnny first. Don't forget to water the flowers, even now.
There. You finally have everything. I hope you fucking choke on it.
Don't be so sure about Zimforth having taken everything yet, Ralph, because after the credits roll, you unlock and are thrown straight into Endless Mode, where you will continue to do dark deeds year after year until you can no longer serve, forever perpetuate the cycle of violence. Just as Ralph ate Johnny's life, Zimforth will continue to eat yours. This is, obviously, the bad ending, but you do have one other option available to you in this final year, which is to instead sacrifice yourself. Wait, how does that work? And this, for that matter. Ah, whatever.
I don't remember what my mom's face looks like. But I remember Ralph. I spent years wondering what I would do when I got out. The first thing I would eat, the first person I would call. Hi, Mom. Sorry I missed a few things. The man kept me in his basement for 10 years. I'm sorry that he's gone. I don't know if the world is going to end tomorrow, but someone died so I could be here today. Even if it's just one day. I'm gonna make it count.
And that was Life Eater. I think the ending to Let Johnny Live, maybe just for one day, is quite satisfying, despite the uncertainty surrounding it, and honestly I don't have much else to add onto Johnny's monologue. Interesting we finally hear Ralph's name undistorted now. Maybe it's because after doing something selfless and noble, he can finally be seen as human. It could also be a meta thing where we can hear it since it's now safe to do so. Now Ralph is dead. Also, it's a good thing Ralph started letting Johnny out of the cage, so his legs work now, huh? I do like that these two are your only options for endings, however. There is no happy end where Ralph and Johnny get to live together, or wait for the world to end side by side. To sacrifice no one is to fail. Again, your hostage cannot consent, and Ralph has done too much to earn a happy ending for himself. Johnny, despite everything, can still move forward. Though he was a victim, and will carry with him the events of the last decade from being trapped by Ralph, he does not outright condemn him in his final words, even though he arguably could. Evil god or not, he didn't have to be there, especially for so long. Still, he might have one day more to live now, and even for such a short amount of time, he can return to his life that was taken from him, despite everything that has happened. He is a survivor, and he can go on.
So stay with me.
Life Eater is a game I have so many different feelings about. It's a great premise, and I think its story capitalizes on its paranoid feelings incredibly well, but in terms of gameplay, it feels like it never fully realizes itself. I still think it's worth playing, but it's a bit of a shame, yeah. In a lot of ways, I would like to see the game followed up on. Maybe not a direct sequel. I think hearing the name Zimforth again would do a new game and this one a disservice. This game was so laser focused on one idea, and I think I'd like to see something that broadened its scope somewhat. An intriguing aspect of this game which isn't explored too much is the dual life that the protagonist leads, and I think that'd be cool to see it built upon. Trying to appear normal in the everyday, whilst also needing to do dark and terrible things in the darkness, whilst surrounded by your neighbours. We can learn a lot about ourselves from exploring these dark ideas, what it is that we cherish and hold closest to us in life, how we see and interact with the people and the world around us, even if the characters we engage with do things that we would never do ourselves. It can just be fun, or it can be more than that. I think we're better off with these experiences that dare to shine a light on these facets of the human experience that we otherwise try to look away from. And I hope that one day, the ideas here might be nurtured, like how a gardener might tend to their flowers to see them bloom. Thank you for watching. Bigger projects have been a struggle to get traction with, so I wanted to shine a light on this game which I first played last year, and forgot about certain aspects of the story. I'm definitely making a reputation for myself. Thank you to my friends for their valued feedback on this video. One friend, a boy named Fox, released a wonderful new song recently, which you're listening to right now, and I encourage you all to check it out in full on Bandcamp. 50% of proceeds go to charities Mermaids UK and Inspire Canada. Get good music and support good causes. Everyone wins.
So I find you a rest under the earth where they paved you away.
And as always, a huge thank you to my patrons, whose kindness and patience ever humbles me. Patrons get access to my feed to see what I'm up to, and get to ask questions at the end of videos, which we'll get into right now. Favourite fruit? Strawberries.
I love it.
Opinion on phew. It's not the brand I usually go for. I'm a Yorkshire tea man myself, but I'm not picky. It's alright. Thoughts on the Fallout fan game using GZ Doom? Fallout Bakersfield. My first thought was, good god, how did they do all that? And my second was that I absolutely wanted to play it. It's amazing the things people are still doing in GZ Doom, and how they can be so impressive. Is there any long-forgotten game, series or not, you wish would make a comeback one day? This is a difficult one because I feel I've been blessed in that regard. I wanted Boomer Shooters back, and they came. I wanted a sequel to The World Ends With You, and I got it. After much teasing. I even got Tony Hawk back. Twice now. I'm probably gonna say a new Command & Conquer game though. If Age of Empires can come back, why not CNC? With a full new game rather than just a remaster? And why not one that's not 4? Okay, that's everything. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.
Wires and let me